Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Retro Reminisce, the show where we look at older games, mostly, and see if they still hold up, our likes, our dislikes, and, you know, if there's any bit of nostalgia there going on. My name is Killjoy, and today I am joined by two fine gentlemen, as always. To my left, Mr. Mark Kitchen, aka the guy who was getting forward aired off the ledges in Smash. How's it going, my friend?
Oh, that's a little dig there. I'm good. I'm good.
Fantastic, that's what we like to hear. And on my other left, Mr. Fruity Sammer, aka I didn't really think of a good nickname for you. How's it going, my good friend?
I think Fruity Sam is an alright nickname. That's kind of what I go by.
Standard. As you can tell, you know, just trying to rile us up for this conversation. Just enough, you know.
It's been a long time in the making.
Yeah. Alright, today we are looking at the one and only Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, considered by many to be one of the greatest games ever released. So, a few little facts for you about this game. It came out in Japan and North America in November of 1998, so quite a while ago now. At least it feels like it. And it was originally planned to be on the 64DD, which was the expansion to the N64, but they eventually put it on a 256 megabit cartridge, or 32 megabit, sorry, 256 megabyte, which was the largest cartridge that they used at the time. So,
Yeah.
big
Cool.
game. Massive game, really. It was also released on 3 different consoles, being the N64, the GameCube, and the iQ Player, which, if you don't know what that is, it was a GameCube that was converted to play, I think, DVDs, but it was only released in either China or Japan. It's a very weird-looking machine, but they did come out on that as well.
I do not know what that is.
Yeah. For those who don't know, which I'd be very shocked if you didn't, it is a single-player action-adventure game that involves you playing the character Link, running around a massive world of Hyrule and saving the princess, like every good Zelda game.
Did you know as well this was meant to come out sooner than it did, and it was meant to, they were going to go for a Super Mario 64 type thing where you go into like paintings and like to go to different dungeons you would do like a go into the painting thing in Super Mario 64 and get to that area, and then they realised that that would be too similar and that they needed to expand the world. I don't know whether that's 100% accurate, but it was something like that. Like they would go on that kind of similar
sort of build on that style of gameplay.
Yeah.
I mean, right. So I mean, we think all three of us are gonna have a lot to say today. So let's not dilly dally about for too much longer. Let's start off with memories. I'm gonna come to you last, Mr. Mark, because I know how much you love this game. Let's start with Mr. Fruity Sammer. What are your earliest memories of playing this game?
The earliest ones going to my friend's house who had the N64 in primary school. So it would have been like year 5, year 6, I think, for us, around that, like 998, 999. And yeah, it kind of blew me away, because at that point I only had PlayStation 1. So yeah, it was a massive game. It seemed really huge. And the graphics were really good for the time as well, compared to what I was playing on PS1.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really impressive. Remember we only really got to maybe fire. Yeah, probably the first fire dungeon.
Oh, so the Death Mountain.
Yeah.
Dodongo's Cavern.
So playing it, So you played it a couple of times at his. But yeah, that's the earliest one. Obviously, I've played it. Most of my actual playing of the game comes from when it was on the GameCube.
Yeah.
So I played a lot of it on there.
Good collection, that.
Yeah, so that's probably the time I actually played it and completed it the first time, on my own.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Nice.
I love that young child
primary
school life.
For me, it's a little bit different. So weirdly enough, it stems from Smash Brothers. Me playing this game.
Surprising.
I know, right? No, my friend lent me his N64, and he lent me Ocarina of Time. But at the same time, another friend had lent me GoldenEye and Smash Bros. 64. So with me and my brother, we primarily played Smash Bros. And GoldenEye because they were multiplayer games. But we did play, or I remember playing Ocarina of Time. I don't know if we had separate files or not. And my memory is very cloudy because I don't know how on earth I did some of those puzzles back then. Thinking about what I struggled with recently, I must have just persevered. But I got up until Jabba Jabba's belly, ran out of ammo with the slingshot, and then never touched the game again. And that's about my only memory of playing it back then. So yeah, until recently I hadn't touched it ever since. So I had very Like I was like, I had knowledge of this particular part of the game, and that was it. I didn't know anything else, and all the rest of the other knowledge that I'd learned was from speedruns.
The kid time.
Yeah, exactly. So it was the third dungeon for the kid one. So
which is like the least interesting dungeons. Like the adult dungeons are a lot better.
Yeah, Jabba Jabba is not the best dungeon.
Let's chuck it to you, Mr. Mark, because I think you might have some good memories of this.
Well, I don't have anything like particularly. Obviously, I have really good memories, but I don't have anything like crazy stories.
No.
Generally, just I feel like with all of the videos we've done, I've been like, oh yeah, well, I played this at like a mate's house or this mate's house or this mate's. This is probably the first one where it's been like, right, we got this at home. Like, the first time I played this was at my house. Before this came out, we had the N64 for like a year or so before that. I remember I'm just going back to N64 history, but I remember my brother being like, we had a choice between a PS1 and an N64, and my parents were going to buy us one of them. And my brother was like, we need to get an N64. And all my mates had a PS1, and I was like, I felt like I was missing out. And then like he showed me the ways. We got like Mario Kart 64, GoldenEye, like loads of good games. And then this came out, and I'd not heard of Zelda before.
Wow.
At this point.
Yeah.
I was like a little kid. Like this was my first experience of any Zelda.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird to think about it now because I'm quite a big Zelda fan. I've played a lot of games. He was like, this is going to be the best thing ever. And my brother was about like 5 years older than me, so I was like 9 when this came out. He was 14, so he was more kind of
on it.
He was like, we've got to get this. And my mates come around, and I just remember getting the game, like seeing the intro and being in the treehouse, being like, you can't do anything in here, and then coming out of the treehouse and just this very gentle kind of pan with the camera of you stepping out into Kokiri Forest, which now by like today's standards just doesn't seem great at all, but back then it was like, oh my god, like I hadn't played that many 3D games. Like I played a number of 3D games, like there obviously were plenty around for like a few years or so by then, but I played like Tomb Raider and stuff, but not with not with something.
Hey,
that's for another day.
Tomb Raider is a good game.
I like Tomb Raider, but like I hadn't played something with such scope. I think this game, like graphically and in terms of the world, had like such, it's like just standing out into the forest and seeing all this kind of greenery and all these little tree houses, and I was like, oh wow,
very alive. Felt very alive, didn't it?
Yeah,
so,
like it's
like also like the cinematography of it as well was really impressive.
Yeah,
from when you first go through that Hyrule Castle and stuff as a kid, and it pans over to like the main gate, and like it pans.
Yeah.
And as you're talking to like Zelda, it like pans and cuts into like see Gandalf walking by. Like it's got a very kind of like the cutscenes wasn't really something I was used to.
They were messing around a lot, weren't they, with the camera, which was cool.
It's a lot of cutscenes which you didn't really get at the time.
Yeah. So I feel like obviously someone playing this now wouldn't be wowed by it, but back then I was like, I'd never seen anything like this. This game kind of set the standard for a lot of things that came later. Like this is like, if anything in games had to be patented, like this game like created loads of those things, you know, like Z targeting and like just the, tons of the mechanics and everything.
The puzzle design, dungeons.
Yeah, like a lot of design things. Like this game did it first, and then loads of other games did it after, and it's not special anymore. But back then it was like, wow.
I read it. I can't remember the exact quote, but I read there was some developer who said if you make a game, if it isn't inspired by Mario 64 or Ocarina of Time, then you're lying to yourself. And I was like, I mean, doesn't apply to every game, obviously, but I can kind of understand like his point, because they were the big sort of platform genre, open worldy genre, and the single player sort of adventure style. They kind of, they may not have been the first games to do it, but they kind of really pushed the boundaries.
Yeah.
So you know, we do have the N64 to thank for those games specifically. So.
I still have a lot of nostalgia for even the most minor things, like loading up the menu screen and having the fairy fountain music playing over like the select thing.
Yeah.
And I know the game almost inside out. There were a couple of things that I didn't get quite right when we were playing it again this year. It seemed to slip my memory, which is really weird. But like most of the game, I know. Like I know how to do all the puzzles and all of that.
Yeah. We might as well crack on then. Let's talk about things we like about this game. Okay, I have a lot of stuff I want to say on this.
There's a lot of things.
I want to say before we go into this. For me personally, like, bear in mind I have very little nostalgia for this game. Like, I only barely remember what I played, and like I wasn't really a Zelda fan until much later on. Like the games that I very much enjoyed were like
Breath of the Wild later on.
Yeah. But before then, like the games I had enjoyed were the 2D ones. So Link's Awakening, Link to the Past, Link Between Worlds, Oracle of Seasons. Like I loved the top-down Zelda games, and my experience with the 3D ones was really bad. Like this game, I got stuck. One of the first time I ever played Wind Waker, I couldn't even get my sword back. I got really confused, so I played it for an hour and never touched it again until much later. So every time I played a 3D Zelda game, I got not very far into the game, so I didn't have the best track record with them. However, obviously, I have just finished this game for the first time. I've played through it. I will say there's a lot of stuff I missed, like a lot of side content, but the actual main content of the game I played through. So I'm coming from my perspective. I don't really have much nostalgia for it, so I'm just talking through like my experience, pretty fresh.
Yeah.
I just want to say that now because I don't have that kind of nostalgia that a lot of people do have for this game. So let's start things off on basically all these high notes I got down here. A lot of these are very specific, so I'll point that out as well. Overworld music. A lot of the music in this game went in Hyrule, the field, the town. A lot of the other places that you visit, obviously the Lost Woods, there is a lot of good music in this game that really makes the world feel very bubbly, feel very alive. Like, one of my favourites is Song of Storms, probably one of my favourite Zelda tunes of all times. I know that's not an Overworld song, but when you go into the windmill in this game and that's playing, it's just like, it's just so jolly. It's just a really good tune. The way that Sarah's song, whatever her name is, Saria's song, the one that plays in Lost Woods as well, like the idea of trying to find her and you can hear this particular tune playing. Obviously the Hyrule Hyrule Field music, which is very, very epic.
Feel very like epic. It's got that kind of like, I really want to stride through on a horse through this big field. Yeah,
it's a lot of the music. Gerudo Valley. Gerudo Valley, when you go there, like a lot of the music that you get in the overworld is phenomenal. Like, it really sets a nice tone for each place that you go to. I'm not overly keen on the Zora one so much, but I still think it works for it. Like, I think each area has good music, and I think it kind of gives a different flavour to each place you go and kind of gives it that feel.
I love Breath of the Wild, but I feel like if this game had the kind of minimalist music that Breath of the Wild has, because the music in that game is often quite minimal, like it wouldn't be the same. No. This game needs that kind of really
bombastic
soundtrack. Yeah, because otherwise it would be a bit dead. But like this game does have that, so it's good.
Yeah. The nice thing about this game is the amount of characters that you interact with. For a game of its time, there are a lot of NPCs, and there are a lot of memorable NPCs. You've got obviously the place where you start in the forest. You have obviously the Deco Tree being like the main sort of like dungeon that you first encounter. You have all of the other little fairies that are around there, whatever they're called. Kokiri, I can't pronounce it. You have them. You obviously have your best friend being Saria and all that and stuff.
Like Impa and Sheik.
Yeah, Impa, Sheik, Zelda, Ganondorf is really well written in this game. Like he feels generally menacing. You know, you've got the Gorons, you've got the Zoras, you've got the Gerudo. Like, everywhere you go, like, and what's his face? The guy that takes over the ranch, like, when you become adult Link. I don't know what his name is. The evil guy. He's, like, really bad. He's like a real cheesy evil villain. Ingo, yeah. Like, I love how each character, even with the Sculptular people as well, where they're, like, humans, but they're trying to sort of transform back into humans.
House of Sculptular. Yeah.
Like, it's really creepy, but it also, like... Every time you go and you meet these characters, they might not always look drastically different, but like when there are certain characters that you meet who are very memorable, like Bigoron, for example. I didn't really see much of him, but Darunia.
That's massive, the Bigoron guy.
Yeah, it's like all these.
I don't think you really went in that area, but he's like ridiculous.
But there's these amazing like characters that really sort of bring the world to life, and some of them are like very jolly, some of them are like There's two people arguing. There's like a knight who wants like a mask for his kid, and he's sort of laughing at you and stuff like this. And it's just like, as you're going around this world, especially obviously when you're the child, that's when most of these people are alive. Yeah. And then you get into the adult, and most of them are dead or whatever.
Yeah, it's quite dark because you become an adult and you go out to the market and it's just re-deads.
Yeah,
and like
zombies,
all the buildings are burnt down.
Everyone's dead. Like,
it's a really dark game.
Yeah, and like I think that was something that surprised me actually. Was like getting to know these characters and also seeing their development over the 7 years. Like you meet Ruto, don't you? Like in one of the dungeons, she's a pain in the ass. And you meet her as an adult when she's the sage, and she's like kind of grown up but not. Yeah, and she's like, we're married.
In Jabu Jabu's belly, because she went in there to get the sapphire that Jabu Jabu swallowed. And then you see her again at the water temple.
Yeah.
And like she's like, oh, we should be married.
Yeah. And like it's really cool, like the characters you meet throughout, and even some of the boss characters as well. Like they have their own personalities through either the dialogue that some of them have, or just through the types of creatures that you fight.
The twins in the spirit.
Twin Rover, yeah, like really good. So yeah, characters, massive boon to this game. Kind of spoke about it already, but locations, each of the individual locations in this are really good. I can't think of any place that I went to and I was like, ugh. I was like, maybe Lake Hylia because it's swimming, but you generally don't spend a lot of time in the water unless you're looking for things. But like the actual like scope of a lot of the areas is really cool. So you've got like your forest, then you've got like your mountain, then you've got like your river, a lake, a desert, all these different places. The castle town, the Temple of Time, which is a really cool area. Like I love the fact that you have all these different areas, and they are generally pretty different from each one. I mean, they're kind of standard affair now in Zelda, but
back then it was
and they all vary.
Flashed out 3D game.
Exactly, I like the fact that when you go to a new area, it feels different to wherever you've just been and stuff. And some of them also interlink. Pardon the pun there. Something I did very much enjoy that I didn't know was quite as dark as it was the story. Like. You start off as this kid, you're just collecting these like elements, and then when you jump to an adult, you realise just how fucked up the world is. Like Ganon has just like murdered everybody, like the town's broken, like all the stuff that he's up to is like, oh damn. Like, but there's also this sort of sub story going on where, Link's basically lost his childhood. He's done this thing as a kid. He now has to stop Ganon, and then right at the end of the game, like his fairy fucks off, which means he can't go back to the woods. Because you need a fairy not to get somebody you speak to in it, part of the game who says, oh, if you turn up in this woods with no fairy, you end up turning into like a skull kid or something. There's like some dialogue about it. Yeah. And so basically, he can't go back there. That's kind of sad. But there's kind of like some really interesting story elements through this game, which I very much enjoyed. One of the biggest mechanics, I've mentioned it a few times, which I think works really well in this game, is obviously child-adult Link. And there are parts of the game where you need to switch between them. Like some will be like sub-dungeons you have to go in the past to do them with Child Link, and sometimes you have to come back and be Adult Link then. And I think that mechanic is really well handled. I like the fact that, and also there's items that only work when you're big and small, which is really cool as well. Like when you've got the Hylian shield, when you're a kid, you can't use it properly. You just duck with it. You just duck and he uses it on his back. But obviously when you're an adult, you're like, well, I'm bigger now, I can hold this. And having like the boomerang as a kid, and then the slingshot, and then they're getting switched out for like the hook shot and the bow and stuff, and you get older. I think that works really well. Do you get the hook shot as a kid? You don't, do you? No.
But it makes you realise how much stronger you've got when you have to go back in time to a kid, and you realise that the Kokiri sword does half the damage the Master Sword does. Yeah. And you can't shield properly. You just have to bend over
and just hope for the best.
Yeah. And. It just makes you realise how much how much stronger you are when you're an adult. Yeah. And you don't realise that until you go back to being a kid. So.
I just want to bring up like some of the boss fights in this game. Right, so this is going to fall under both, because I think some of the boss fights in this game are great, some not so good, but I'll get to them later. Yeah. The ones that I think are really good, Goma, Dodongo, Puppet Ganon, and Ganon's final form, I think are the best boss fights in here. Puppet Ganon's probably the best fight in this game. Because you didn't realise this until I was doing it, the fact that if you use the sound, really you can hear him coming from the different angles.
Yeah.
The way
I knew that. I just kept like looking around all the paintings and waiting for him to come out of one. Yeah. My brother just said just spin on the spot until you see him coming out of one. I basically learned all the tricks of this game from Paul being like, you need to do this or do that. Like, that's how I learned any games really, like GoldenEye and stuff.
Yeah. Someone else being like, do this.
Yeah,
do this.
my older brother
Same.
like showing me the like tricks of the trade and stuff. Yeah.
Well, the reason why I think Papa Ganon's so good is that you have the first phase of him where you're whacking back this ball, and then after you've done that a few times, he then goes into a painting, and you have to, with the bow, fire at him when he comes out of the painting, and like you can use the sound to hear which way is
Oh, it's the other way around. You do the bow thing first.
No, when I did it, it was the sort of thing first, wasn't it?
What, Papa Ganon?
Yeah, it was the ball first.
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll trust you on it, but I thought it was the.
No,
But anyway, you do that.
Shit.
You do that anyway.
Because
so
that's how you get him out of the painting. Is when you've done it enough times, he comes out, he loses his horse, and then he's just floating around.
For some reason I thought it was the other way around, but basically you have those two phases of it. It's fun. It's a good fight. Ganon's final form, especially right at the end of the game, he knocks the Master Sword out of your hand, and then you have to fight this big hulking.
He does
actual
look
Ganon.
really cool. He looks hard as fuck. And
Yeah.
he's like terrifying.
What I like about that boss, compared to the Ganondorf fight beforehand, which I'll get to later, is it's very much just like it's you versus him. There's no fucking around. He's trying to kill you, and the cool thing is your intent. You have to hit his tail. There are multiple ways you can do things. You can just roll under his legs. You can stun him with certain items. You can just dodge his swings, and it feels like a really intense battle right at the end there to be like, right, I'm gonna fuck you up, and then you get your Master Sword back and start wailing on him some more, and it's a really good way to end the game. It's like a really, really good fight. And Goma and Dodongo, the only reason I like those is Goma's fairly straightforward for a first boss. Not too hard, very easy pattern, but just it's a cool boss. And Dodongo I like because it's a classic Zelda enemy. It's just like, throw a bomb in his mouth, blows up, that kind of thing. But they were by far, like, I think, the best bosses in the game from all those. So, lastly, I just want to talk about some of the items. Being this, obviously, the Ocarina is the main thing in this game. The Ocarina is such a well implemented item. I didn't realise how important it is to, like, when you get into Adult Link, when you have the ability to fast travel with it. It's so useful because the game's not massive in today's standards, but you don't move that fast unless you've got Epona, where you move a bit quicker. But being able to teleport around the map. Now, I didn't go looking for like tons of collectibles. However, I think it'd be really good and useful to be able to, I've missed something in these areas. Definitely. I can just teleport to them. But the idea of using the songs as well, I just think the song idea is really cool. I couldn't remember any of them to save my life. I had to keep looking them up. But I love the fact that you have all these different abilities. Like this one item allows you, the way they implemented it, they've allowed you to do all these extra abilities on top of the weapons and other items that you had. So I think the Ocarina is an absolute, like, it's the thing in this game is so good. Like I love the way it's implemented and designed. I was like, this is great.
Because Hyrule Field, like by today's standard, doesn't look very big. Like obviously the Zelda games got much bigger. But it still does take a little bit of time to get across the field.
Even with Epona,
it takes a bit of time. So it's useful to be able to be like, I want to go to Kakariko Village. Well, I can walk to the graveyard with the Shadow Temple song, the Nocturne of Shadow, then just like leave that way.
Exactly.
Go
it's
to
like
Lake Hylia with the Water Temple song.
And I think that's just like a really, really, really well implemented item. Other items that I liked, the hook shot is probably one of the most useful items in the game. You upgrade to the long shot and stuff, but it stuns enemies. It's just always useful. Like that was definitely something I always had equipped. Same with the bow, same with the slingshot. Like really, really good items. Just very well implemented into the game. And obviously you get there are other items as well, but I think those are the ones that were mostly used. Boomerang also. Boomerang's very, very useful. Boomerang's very good when you're fighting Stalfos. Because you can just freeze them and then Young Link can just go and stab them. Because it takes forever to kill a boy. So, but those are the items I think are the best ones. The ones that I found the most useful. Bombs, obviously. Bombs as well, and just a ton of cool. As you're going through the game, that kind of progression that these games are known for, being like, you got a new item, now you can go out and do stuff in the overworld, but also some of these are just super useful in combat as well as others. That's pretty much all my likes for now, so I'll throw it back to Fruity if you've got anything you want to talk about now.
It's mostly the same as what you already brought up, really. Like the map size and the characters. One thing I'd say is I like how they inject a lot of personality and like emotions onto Link as well. It's like I kind of forgot how much like expressions he has, and kind of like the way he kind of emotes things. Because I kind of associate that more with like Wind Waker. Actually, it's quite a lot of that in this game.
The best one's when every time the ocarina gets a new song, he's just so shocked.
Yeah.
And it shines.
Yeah,
It's like
it's like,
a little
oh!
sparkly thing. Yeah.
But that's true. I forgot about that.
I like his relationship with Shulk and stuff like that. Oh, Sheik.
Sheik,
Sorry.
Shulk. That would be
Because
amazing.
we're playing.
I'm really feeling it.
Playing Smash Bros. But yeah, like I really like that. I like how they keep like bumping into each other. And it's like every time you go to a temple, it's like, oh, hello, bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I like all the young and old mechanics, like the town goes. Like I think I touched on. I really like all like the mini games and like the side quests, like collecting all
Yeah,
the
you didn't do any mini games.
collecting
No.
all the chickens, doing all the mini games in
Got
town.
the fishing.
And you're like an adult, you can do the other game in the village as well.
Oh yeah, there's one's like a target thing, isn't it, with a bow. Remember
There's the
that one?
bomb chew
Oh
thing.
god, I did do that
The
thing.
bomb one, yeah.
You get the
Ugh.
heart piece, but yeah, you can do the slingshot and the arrow stuff to get your upgrades, which is really useful because you can get more arrows.
I wish I'd
and-
done that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Levi ran out of arrows in the fucking last time.
Yeah, they're really
No,
fun.
I actually I had like some left, but I managed to get some in there.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I
it's
did
like
like
that,
that.
but you got like all the extra stuff in the Zelda games.
There's a lot of extra content in this actually.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Item-wise, I guess it's only the other arrows you get.
You've got fire, ice, normal, and light.
Yeah.
And I got fire and light. One item I want to bring up that I think is completely underrated in this game is the nuts. The nuts that you can do that stun things. I spent the entire game carrying those with me. I was like, they are going to be useful at some point.
You were kind of obsessed with them.
They work against Ganon in his final form. I was like, yeah, let's keep chucking him down.
Really?
They stun him for a short time so you can like get behind him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love those things. They're so good.
But yeah, like, I say my favourite weapon is still the hammer. It's so
Oh, no.
funny, 'cause it's so like tiny, but I just love how long it takes him to like swing the hammer.
It's called the Megaton Hammer. It's
It's
so
so-
like this
it's
dinky
so
little metal
tiny.
thing, isn't it? Yeah.
It does like move like solid stone though.
Yeah.
Those switches that you stand on and they don't move, and then you
Yeah,
fucking
like,
belt
wow.
them.
Yeah, but I always love it because it's such a ridiculous weapon. Also, like the kind of the Goron sword as well.
Oh, the big one, yeah.
Massive
Yes.
one.
I've
That's always really funny as well. Like, I like the kind of more novelty.
I think
Two-handed.
I think
like,
when you get it, it kind
yeah.
of breaks a lot of the bosses and stuff, though, doesn't it? Like, it basically means you do does more damage than
it's
anything
double
else.
damage.
Yeah.
You can't hit a wall with it.
There's the
Snaps in the walls, isn't it?
no, that's the knife, isn't it? Is it?
That's the giant's knife.
Yeah, 'cause you get
Oh,
the Giant's
that's
knife as
something
well,
like- yeah,
which
yeah.
you can only use 5 times, but then the actual big Goron sword you can use forever.
Ah, yeah.
I
forgot
felt
about
like they put the giant's knife in as
Just to
like a
tease you.
kind of red herring. Like people thought they were getting the big Goron sword, but it was like, no, that's
that.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes ages to get it, doesn't it? It's a big trading quest.
I'll get onto it on my
Okay.
part.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, but like all that, all the upgrades, how big the world feels. Yeah, because the temples are pretty good. Like, I remember hating a lot more of the temples when I was younger. But actually, a lot of them are quite self-explanatory.
I forgot to even mention like the temples that I liked. Yeah, I was going to say there's Fire, Spirit, Shadow are by far the 3 best. In my opinion, are the 3 best dungeons in this game.
Spirit and Shadow, yeah, definitely.
Spirit and Shadow are my favourite.
Do you know
but
why
we'll
I
get
think
onto
they're
that.
my favourites? Because they are the most straightforward dungeons out of all.
Yeah.
They're all very much just like go this path, and then like when you can't go that way, go a different way. Especially Spirit and Shadow. The last 2 were surprisingly straightforward. I know there's a lot of gimmicks and things going on with them, but I found them
Yeah,
the
like the
easiest.
mirror and stuff like that. So yeah, it's all everything really covered really. I always love getting Perna as well, and that go hanging out in the ranch.
Yeah,
It's always fun. I
The
really,
horses.
really like that place.
it's nice
Very
and peaceful.
relaxing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the milk. The
I
long
love
milk.
that whole thing when you get the horse.
Oh, and he
He's
wants
just
to
there,
race you.
like the proper like breakdown, the mustache guy.
Yeah, and
He
he's
goes
like, "You're never gonna leave."
"Ah!"
And he's chopping
How do
on
they
the
explain that
face.
to Ganon?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I like the horror things with like the zombie
Redeads.
dead people, redeads. I really like that scream they do.
No,
Like, it's annoying, but like when I was a kid, finding that like really scary.
And then
When
like
they first, like,
it freezes
grabbed
the
me.
screen.
Yeah, they just
Yeah.
come towards you.
Yeah,
That's quite creepy. Yeah, like,
so
I
when they
found that
first
creepy.
grabbed me as a kid, I remember being like really surprised.
They
by
like
that.
jump on your back and just like strangle you. And it's like,
Mm.
wow, this is dark.
Yeah, really dark. But yeah, the Ocarina spells are really good.
Yeah.
Songs.
I love the songs. I love Song of Storms. It's just such a.
Which I kind of like how like quite rare for the time. I kind of like how you have like, different tunics as well.
Yeah.
So you went a lot. You didn't get so many outfits back
Mm.
in the day. I kind of like that. Like the different shields. Yeah, it's a lot of variety. There's some things get like pointless later on, but yeah, it's a really good. It did well. I'm trying to think of anything else. Really.
It did well.
Yeah.
We'll come back to you if you think of anything else, but I'm going to throw it over to Mr. Mark because I feel like you might have some more things to say.
I've got quite a bit to say.
Let's do this.
I'll try to make it as ungeneric as possible because otherwise I could just go over absolutely everything and be here for.
That's all right.
Hours. So
just do what you need to do.
So I really like a lot. I know we kind of touched on it. Cutscenes.
Yeah.
There are some good cutscenes in this game. I hadn't really played many games with big cutscenes before.
Yeah.
Not before this game. Just one of the big ones for me was, so you start off in a forest and you get a tiny little sword and a wooden shield to do your best in a tree.
Yeah.
And like, you know, you're just this kid that's never left the forest, you've never aged. And then you have to leave the forest for the first time and it's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Like, I've been here forever.
Yeah.
You haven't, not like by terms of you playing the game, but this kid has been there forever. And you leave the forest and there's this scene where Saria is like really sad to see you go. You're on the bridge between the two tunnels that link the forest and Hyrule Field.
Yeah.
She gives you the ocarina and she sees you go and she looks sad. And Link runs off. And it's just that point of being out in Hyrule Field, you being this tiny little kid with a tiny little sword and a wooden little shield, and you've just come out into this massive field and you have to go to see the princess in the castle, and it's like, oh my god,
like suddenly this kid's got this incredible quest
burden on him. Yeah. So that scene kind of marries these two areas of this kid's life together. This him being this forest forever, and then his life being changed forever. He's going to age. He's going to go forward in time. He's going to conquer so much. I think that's really good. When you beat the Deku Tree, and then the Deku Tree gives you all this wise knowledge, and then he dies, and you have to watch him die.
Yeah,
it's like, oh my god.
It's weird because I'm sure a lot of other Zelda games that have other types of tree, they're usually like sometimes the main sort of characters in it, or like I think Deku Tree's in Wind Waker. I don't think he dies though. I think because he's got the little dudes with him and stuff, but. It's shocking how they just kill him off straight away, don't they?
Yeah.
They're just like, yeah, thanks for doing this. Now I'm dead.
Yeah, and that kind of spurs you on to be like,
fuck Ganon.
Fuck. Yeah. I need to sort this out. And the other cutscenes with the lore, you know, like about the whole like Din and Nehru and Farour, and how they formed how they created the world, and then how the Triforce was created, and the Sacred Realm, and how they have to the sages like
protect it and things.
All of that is really cool. Like breaking through to the Sacred Realm and meeting Rauru, and there's some really good scenes from that. I enjoy all of that. I like how Link has the premonition of seeing Ganondorf coming out of the castle and whisking Zelda away, and that's like that's his dream. He dreams that, and it's like his nightmare, and then it actually happens.
Yeah.
I know that's probably generic now, but back then I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then, you're this little kid and you see Ganondorf and you think, I'm not going to be able to beat him. I've got a little sword and a wooden shield, and he's a fucking...
Hang on, you've got a boomerang at this point.
He's a big guy on a horse, and he looks evil as hell. And then you go through the game, and you get all these items and stuff, and you start looking hard. Yeah. And you're like, well, you can beat him.
Yeah. You speak about cutscenes, actually. The one where you're in the tower before he brings the tower down on you, and he's like coughing up blood or sick or whatever. And he's just like, I can't believe you beat me. Like this puny little kid. That was a really cool cutscene. I like that. And he's playing the organ beforehand when you walk up the tower.
The organ is good. Yeah.
It's like they really decided to make him. It's funny because it's like, you know, most people think, you know, Nintendo games don't really have much of a story or whatever. They're a very basic story, and they have these villains. But I think this is the first time they really kind of made Ganondorf like genuinely evil. I know in Metroid you have like Ridley, who's kind of like very evil looking and stuff, but like Ganondorf has obviously lines, he has the laugh, he has all this stuff, and then he comes across like he's gonna fuck you up, like he's gonna kill everybody.
The thing with like Ganondorf is he's also like
that laugh.
The thing with Ganondorf is also like a human.
Yeah.
and like you can tell that he is just like actually evil.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's like Wrigley and stuff like that. It's like it's not really like a person.
Mm.
It's like it doesn't really quite work when you got like a beast.
Yeah, it's
rather
just
than like
it's a dragon thing. Yeah.
whereas like Gandalf is just literally just out for himself.
Yeah.
Like he just all he cares about is like himself. He's like
Mm.
it's like a very scary bad guy.
There's a cutscene where they're in the temple and he sort of encases Zelda in that
like diamond glass thing, yeah.
glass thing, and she's like she's stuck. Yeah, that's quite like
God damn. He's always got the one up, hasn't he?
Plenty of other scenes, like I can't reel them all off, but like yeah, there are some really good cutscenes in this game. I think it really pieces everything together really well. I really like that. The progression of the character, like obviously this isn't an RPG, but like the progression of the character has that kind of feel where, like I've mentioned, like you start off as a kid and you've got like you have to go get a little sword and a shield, and you're this little child, and like you can just about get through a tree with 3 hearts, and by the end of the game you've got like a dozen or more hearts, and you've got like multiple weapons and different tunics and a stronger shield and magic and all this kind of thing. I like
bottles as well.
Yeah.
I like seeing all the progression of being like this little kid, and then when you're an adult and you're wearing like the red tunic and you've got the mirror shield and you've got the big Goron sword, if you get that,
gauntlets
and the gauntlets and stuff, you look tough. Like you see the change, but if you go and put the sword back in the pedestal and you change back to a kid, you think, I've gone back to being this puny little kid. And that's what I was saying about earlier. Like you see the transition back to how weak you were before, and then you're like, oh, it'd be good when I'm adult again. Like, go pull the sword out again. I want to be hard again.
I think you were saying about not leveling up in the traditional sense of an RPG, but I suppose you kind of, when you beat a boss, you get given a heart piece, don't you? Which obviously adds to it. That's kind of getting the items and getting extra hearts is kind of you leveling up, isn't it? Because you need, like, I'm pretty sure you could go through this game, and I've seen speedrunners do it with just 3 hearts, but that's like unnecessarily making it difficult for yourself. But the idea that like you actively see that you got more hearts, and when you get the half damage thing, the hearts get like an outline around them.
Yeah.
And then you've got all these crazy, you got all the gear. If you get all the fairy magic as well, like Din's fire and all that stuff. And you look at your inventory and you're like, yeah, I've got literally everything. Whereas, like you said, you start off with a sword,
ice
a
arrow,
shield,
fire arrow, like,
light arrows, all that stuff, and that's really cool. Like that, like it's a different way of doing progression. Like. It seems like Nintendo do it. They did it with that. They do it with Metroid as well. Similar sort of thing where you collect the items. As you get more items, you do more damage, you do more power and stuff. You don't actually like level up with stats.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously a lot of like traditional RPGs, they're like, oh, you've leveled up, now you've got increased strength or whatever. This you just see that through getting the items and getting more hearts.
You just look at yourself and you're like, wow, like look at my character. Like he's clearly he's clearly a lot stronger.
He's done that way, yeah.
So. Obviously, we've spoken about music already, but I'm going to touch on it
again.
Because
my guest.
The music in the game is great. There's no music that I don't like. I think you were saying about a lot of the overworld music, like the Hyrule Field music, like being in the Lost Woods, like various different areas, like obviously Gerudo Valley, like that is absolutely classic.
That is a stunning piece of music.
Going into the windmill and listening to Song of Storms, awesome. I think they realised that when they made like Link to the Past, I mean the main theme from the original game is memorable anyway, but when they made Link to the Past, I think that's when they started realising that the series is going to get known for its music.
Yeah, I mean there's definitely a lot of like...
And like Link's Awakening has some quite memorable music, so they were like, right, let's put an instrument in there, like, let's make it more about like playing an instrument in general, and putting more songs in there, let's build on that, and why not make half of those like teleport songs as well, just to throw in some use for those songs. So yeah, I just even like the most basic songs like the Sun Song and stuff I enjoy, you know. Zelda's Lullaby, I just have a lot of nostalgia for that song. Any rendition of that song I enjoy, like I hear orchestral versions. There's a really beautiful version in Skyward Sword of that song. I really like that.
I think with the music side of things, I think the reason why I appreciate a lot of the music now is back to my gem, Smash Brothers. Because a lot of the renditions and a lot of the original tracks are in those games, especially in Ultimate. there is so much music, and you say about the idea of that. Same with Wind Waker. Wind Waker gave you the Wind Waker item, and they did the whole music thing again. And that is another game that I might not like all the music in that game, but each of the islands you go to has such good music, and I think that's what's really good about the Zelda series is like they try to give you a piece of music to make an area memorable. Like even in the Game Boy ones, like I know it's not a particularly great piece of music, but if you go into a cave, you got that like do 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 do. It's not particularly like memorable. It's a short loop. I mean, sorry, it is memorable. It's not particularly great, but it's like I know I can recognise pretty much where those tunes are from. And like even with Breath of the Wild, there are elements of like other tunes from other games in there. I'm like, oh, it's from there, and it's from there. And I like that about the Zelda series, where it's like, oh, that's like Hyrule Field. That's like Dragon Roost Island. That's like something from Skyward Sword. Like the and I think they do a really good job of making them incredibly catchy as well as memorable. So
I think like all the dungeon, as in the warp songs that take you to the dungeons, they fit the dungeons you're going to.
Yeah.
Like there's the Minuet Forest. It's quite a like a dun 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 dun.
It's got that kind of like
it's got that kind of
childlike.
Being in a magical forest kind of thing. And then the Nocturne of Shadow that takes you to the graveyard where the Shadow Temple is, like
super depressing.
It's got this kind of like sinister sound to it.
Yeah, it's very sad sounding.
Yeah, so each one fits the kind of theme of the area that you're going to. This game wouldn't be the same without its music.
No, it's a big
obviously
point.
That's the same with a lot of games, but if this game had like a minimal soundtrack, it would fall flat a bit.
Yeah, it definitely makes a big difference.
Dungeons, I love like all the dungeons, even the least good dungeons I enjoy in this game. I have played this game many times. I like doing it. I know how to do all the puzzles. Like none of them challenge me, but I still like playing this game over and over again and doing it all again because I just think they're all really well designed. I think I like the diversity of dungeons. Like
they're definitely diverse for sure.
I know that's become like the norm now. Like play any 3D Zelda game and you'll get something that's drastically different from something else.
Yeah.
But this kind of set the standard for that. Like being in a volcano for the fire temple, or being under a lake for the water temple, or like being in an actual temple for the spirit temple.
Yeah. It's like, oh, fine, I'm in an actual temple.
Being inside a big fish's belly. You got the whole. I mean, it's been done enough times now, but the whole elemental thing. You've got the kind of earthy one, you've got the fiery one, the watery one, all that kind of thing. But yeah, I think I enjoy the diversity of them. I really like the puzzles. And the kind of all the rooms kind of fit the kind of mood of that dungeon.
Yeah.
So you go in the Shadow Temple and there'll be like enemies. There'd be like a spinning thing with sides coming out of it and like guillotines, and there'll be like disgusting things coming out of the ground. And the Forest Temple will have like those the Dekubaba plants. Like the Shadow Temple is probably, if I had to choose my favourite, Shadow Temple being my absolute favourite. I really like that. Closely followed by the Spirit Temple. I really like that.
Yeah.
And then I really like the Forest and Water. I mean, like I prefer the adult dungeons over the child dungeons generally.
Yeah.
I do really like the like Deku Tree and stuff, but I do.
Probably the Deku Tree is because it's the first dungeon you do. It's very short. It's very simple.
Yeah.
And it's got a lot of tutorial in it, so you've got to deal with the text and that. But I really look forward to doing the latter part of the game because I love the later dungeons. I think they're great. Items, like you were saying, there are loads of great items. I mean, they've become standard in Zelda games, but I just love using the bow. Like you were saying, I love using the hook shot, being able to like clip onto anything. Like you can stun enemies with it, which is really useful for a lot of stuff.
It's the fact that it gives you extra mobility. I think that's why I like it. I like any item that gives you the ability to get around.
I really like the Lens of Truth. I think
that's a great item.
Great idea. Like they hadn't done it before. I don't think they've done it.
I don't think they've done it since.
Being able to see invisible stuff, which is mainly for the Shadow Temple, but you can use it in other areas. Like it was used a bit in the Spirit Temple. Let's use the bit in Ganon's castle. You can use it for that thing in the market where you did with the chest.
Yeah.
Like, so you could I think a lot of people didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't know you could do that. They thought you just had to guess it. I really liked the mirror shield. I think that was a really cool concept.
Yes.
Being able to deflect light and different things. And I think the mirror shield itself, the aesthetic of it looks really cool.
Lovely.
Just like a silver shield, like a red outline kind of. And you get you have to do the trials in the desert for the ice arrow. That's really cool. I know you didn't do that, but that's really cool.
There's a reason for that.
Side quests, really good side quests. Again, you didn't do many of them, but the Big Goron Sword side quest is great.
Is that the trading one?
Trading sequences have become standard in Zelda now.
That's how you get the bunny hood, isn't it? Where you can run really fast for the trading sequence within the masks.
Yes, that's the mask. That's separate from the
actual trade. Yeah.
So there's the mask thing, which is great, and that's a big getting all the masks is awesome.
Yeah.
Big Goron Sword is separate from that, and you get the best weapon in the game, and it's the best sword in the game, and it's all really awesome. And then there's other bits and pieces you do to get heart pieces and all sorts. And then they took side quests to another level when they made Majora's Mask.
There's tons of side quests.
Did it a lot harder in that, but this game was really good for side quests. I haven't played a game with as many side quests as this.
Yeah.
Story.
I mean,
story.
I was going to say it's right up your street.
The pacing of the story is great. I think it's all fits together nicely. It's a very classic Zelda.
Pretty dark. I mean, most Zelda games are kind of dark, but I think this is the first time they were able to really show that on screen, where the rest of them are just 2D. Link to the Past is quite dark, but it's not particularly scary. Reading the dialogue, you know what I mean? The story itself is quite dark, but this is the first time they've been able to really sort of show that on screen and you see that visually. You go through that when it's happening.
You see more the effects of everything.
Yeah. The bit with Death Mountain as well, where the clouds around it when you go into the future, and then you defeat that temple when it's gone,
and that cloud goes away, and you're oh, that's cool.
You've done something good.
Yeah. So I really like all of that. Just progressively saving each area kind of thing. And all the kind of meetings with Sheik and Zelda and learning about all the lore. And
was that much of a surprise to you, finding out that Sheik was Zelda when you originally played it? Because obviously,
I can't remember not knowing because I was so young.
Yeah,
I can't remember what the feeling was like.
Sure, because obviously I knew, but then smash.
So I feel the pacing of the story is really good. Some games get the pace of story wrong. The story might be good, but the pace might be a bit wrong. But I feel this is really nicely paced.
Yeah, exactly that.
I think the graphics were great for their time. Obviously, they haven't aged particularly well. A lot of people probably think, oh, that's a
play the 3DS version for all visuals.
Yeah. I've seen the 3DS version. It looks great. But I think even this N64 version, I think was really stunning because when I was a kid, I was wow. I've been playing PS1 games and
it's just
you play Final Fantasy 7 and then you play this and this is I know Final Fantasy 7 is an amazing game, don't get me wrong, but this is a better looking game.
I think let's be fair, a lot of PS1 and N64 era games don't look great nowadays because it was the beginning of 3D. Even
the transition was different.
Yeah, PS2 games. There's probably a lot of those games I probably wouldn't necessarily say, oh, these are great looking, but they started to iron out a lot of the kinks they had handle on technology. Then, if you're done, then should we move on to things we don't like? Do you want me to go first?
I'll let you go.
All right. So I have a lot of things I want to bring up, and these are very specific things. They're not oh, this is crap or whatever, but these are things that I definitely. And Mark, you probably even know some of these things from just watching me play it. You probably saw the frustration. First thing I want to say before we even get onto this, when I played this game, I played it with on the Wii U, so I did not have the best time with the controls for the C buttons. But I'm not holding that against the game at all. I just want to make that clear. That's just the fact that the buttons happened to be on my C stick. So there were times it wasn't so bad when I fought Ganon at the end. I kept getting the bow right, but to start with, I did struggle with it. But that's not a thing against the game. That is just the fact that that's the version I played. However, something that my biggest problem with this game is something that you must have seen me deal with and struggle with the entire time through is the Z targeting in this game. Is fucking atrocious, and I hate it.
I don't get it. Like, it's so simple.
Right, now I'll explain why.
It revolutionised gaming.
So the reason why
I forgot to mention that I should have written that down in my likes. Like, that's one of the like absolute revolutionary things.
I'll tell you why I had such a hard time with the whole targeting system. So
you press it once, and then you've locked onto the enemy forever.
So my problem is, pretty much every other game that does a lock-on system revolves around you holding a button. When you hold the button down, you lock onto something. When you let go of the button, you unlock off of them. When I was playing this, I would face the enemy, hold the button down, and the problem is you have to wait for Navi to fly across to the enemy above its head or whatever for it to activate. If you push it beforehand, you just go into like a sort of a first person, not first person, but like it goes in front of you. So there were times when I thought I'd locked on, I was holding the button down, and then I would whiff and get hit and whatever like that. And this is really obvious when I was fighting Goma. Even for the first boss in the game, I struggled so much with that because I couldn't get my head around it. And then I started to learn throughout the game how it worked. And then I got to Twin Rover and realised that when you knocked her down in one phase, I was still targeted onto her. I tried to jump over a hole and fell down the hole because then I learned, you can't jump over gaps when you're targeting someone. So I really struggled with this, and I think it's because they decided to implement it in a way that you have to wait for the fairy to fly over, so you have to be a certain distance, and you don't have the ability to just hold the button down when you come in range, it automatically locks on. And maybe that's just because I'm used to a different system playing other games, but I really struggled, and a lot of the time I didn't bother using it because I was like,
interesting. I think it really helps. I think it's so satisfying when you don't need to struggle with a slingshot or a bow and arrow. You can you can Z target and you can watch from a side perspective, like Link arrowing something like dead on, and just be like, wow, yeah, I got to watch that.
I actually forgot to mention a certain boss, but Bongo Bongo is a really, really good boss. And it worked, like you said then. The Bongo Bongo guy, or whatever his name is, he's actually a really good boss.
He is called Bongo Bongo,
yeah. And you're right then, that being able to Z target then onto his hands to fire the bow, or when he flies towards you, sorry.
It would be impossible without it.
Yeah, you could do it without it, not the hands.
No, because
so much.
he smacks the bongo and you float up in the air, and then you lose where you're aiming.
Yeah.
Because he makes you move. Yeah.
But for the most part, I definitely struggled with it, and it was my biggest pet peeve of this entire game was dealing with the lock-on system. In which point you get to fight Ganondorf at the end, and you can't even use it. So I was like, that's fine.
If anyone's listening to this, they're gonna slate you in the comments.
That's fine.
This game is known for revolutionising that system.
But yeah, I hated it. I really, really didn't like it. But that's my.
Say I have any strong opinions.
That is my biggest.
It's just a good targeting system.
Yes, thanks, Dave. I'm glad this isn't 2v1 against me.
It doesn't
I've
work.
never really had any problems.
I don't think it works.
I
don't think it's implemented that well because I shouldn't have to rely on the fairy to fly over for me to then lock onto it.
All you have to do is watch her.
I know, but
she's
in the heat of battle. I don't need to deal with that. I just want to face the right way.
Takes over.
But yeah, so I'm not a big fan of the Z targeting system. I prefer I prefer things like in Metroid Prime where it's just take the button down.
Yeah, but if a game came out with it now, then obviously there'd be a problem. But, this isn't N64.
But I'm obviously speaking through. This is the first proper playthrough for me. I'm only going on things that I struggled with. One other thing that I think, barring one dungeon, absolutely sucks is the dungeon music. I think it's fucking awful, especially the Forest Temple is so grating. I was like, I cannot stand this Forest Temple. No.
Forest Temple
Spirit
is my least
and
favourite temple.
Spirit and
the music or the dungeon, sorry.
The music in Forest Temple.
Forest Temple is just.
I don't like Forest Temple either. I should probably point that out.
Forest Temple is the worst temple. It's so confusing.
Yeah. The windy corridors.
The mirrored. It's like the mirrored two courtyards, and you have to put everything around. It's all over loads of levels as well. They all look the same. I don't like it.
It's got the twisty corridors where you straighten them out and then it changes how the thing.
I like the twisty corridors, but I just don't like that.
Got confused with
it. And you got the pose and you have to get each one.
I mean, it's not terrible, but compared to the other dungeons, it's definitely not.
It's the worst one.
People love that. That's a lot of people's favourite.
Oh, I don't like it.
I'm not a fan of it. But yeah, the dungeon music, most of the dungeons, it's not even memorable. Spirit and Shadow. Probably the most memorable music in the dungeon.
Spirit Temple was amazing.
That's what I mean. Yeah, I'm saying that's good.
That's
what I'm talking about is
I love that music.
Is most of the other dungeon music. Doesn't matter which dungeons they are. it's just really boring. Like, I can't even hum you one of the tunes from those games. Apart from the forest one, because it's just like...
Because you're like... But isn't it because you're like solving puzzles and you're exploring like a dungeon? Like it's meant to be a dingy area. But it's not meant to be like in your face like action music.
But
is it?
even things like Link to the Past, even though in Link to the Past the dungeon music is all the same, it's still more memorable than most of the dungeon music in this. Like, I know they're probably going for something that's a bit more atmospheric.
That's what I mean. Like atmospheric, like kind of just background while you solve puzzles and explore. And
just found it really great. The forest music anyway found it really grating. It was just putting me off the entire time. That's probably because I was struggling with a dungeon, to be fair. Obviously we talked, me and Fruity then talking about the forest temple. Not a fan. The two worst dungeons in this game are by far Jabby Jabby's Belly, mainly because it's really. It hurts to look at that place.
Yeah,
graphically, it's not pretty.
There are elements of that level dungeon I like, but it is the worst dungeon in the game.
Yeah, and it's got one of the worst mid bosses. That fucking thing you have to chase around.
That is a bit of a ball ache.
Yeah, the actual main boss and it's fine. Like
the main boss, I really like. That's one of my favourite things about that dungeon. It's really cool. Like it's got that things, the electric things that fly around.
Yeah, and you hit them with the boomerang.
Baronade,
that's really cool.
I think it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the mid boss is like you might as well just run into it. That seems to be the most effective way of doing
it. You could cheese it, yeah.
Obviously, the other dungeon, and obviously now having played it and why everyone hates it, Water Temple. It's not as bad as Jabby Jabby's Belly. It's
the thing is, you nailed that dungeon, but I fucked it up for you because I misremembered how many keys you needed to get past a certain point.
I don't hate it in the sense that I don't think the dungeon's badly designed. It's just go into the menu, put your boots on, go out of the menu, walk somewhere, go into the menu, put your boots on. Like
that is annoying. Like, but I knew that obviously they couldn't get around that back then. There was no way around it. But I did like. I thought it was. I enjoyed it because I thought it was clever at the time. The fact that you had to
switch between,
like, be like, okay, I can go down here.
Yeah.
And the water's down, but I could also go down here when the water's up and do something different at the bottom with the water up.
It's design wise, it's very good. And obviously, fighting Shadow Link in that is
Dark Link is like the best thing about that dungeon.
Yeah. It's a cool little area before it becomes a normal room.
Yeah.
By the way, none of this stuff's in any particular order. I'm just going to go through what I've got listed. I've put down some of the mechanics in this game are annoying. i.e. pushing blocks is so slow. Like, I understand when you're a kid. I get it as a kid.
Such a minor gripe.
No, but you know, like, it was in the water temple, I think.
It is kind of funny.
But, like, even when you've got the
blocks
gauntlets...
don't move fast enough.
Even when you've got the gauntlets, you think, oh, he's obviously stronger now. It takes so long to push a block. You know that bit you have to blow open the two walls and push the block down and then, like, around? I think it was in the water temple.
Oh, yeah, in the water temple, yeah.
And it was just like... This is taking so much time unnecessarily. Like, I just thought like they might have like sped it up.
Make it one motion rather than like stopping.
It's very like it just takes so long. Like, and other mechanics that I had troubles with, or just things I found a bit annoying, was like grabbing onto things and climbing. Like if you got to a block that you can push. You have to like stand in front of it and then hold the button down. But if you want to climb it, you have to hold forwards and walk into it and push it.
Yeah.
And like it's sometimes a bit
so
fiddly.
Ingrained into me that I never get it wrong. I can understand why someone might get it wrong, but because I've played this game so many times, like I don't find it difficult.
Let's talk about probably one of my favourite things in this game. Let's talk about some of the items, specifically the hammer. The hammer.
Dave's favourite.
Hammer's the best.
The hammer gets used like. Once, twice at best. Like I mean,
you use it to defeat Ganon.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You use it to fight the dragon boss, which which is an okay boss.
Use
whatever.
it to
and then
smack
all those stones
switches
you can break.
Yeah, but like you don't need to.
Yeah, all the
stones that you wander around.
Stones,
which have holes underneath them, and you go down there and you find secrets.
Yeah.
There's switches in dungeons, not just the fire dungeon.
No, I know, but it's still like massively underused for what is essentially a weapon. You can only swing it one way, I suppose, but it just feels like. And this isn't the only weapon. There's things like you get and you don't use them much else. Iron boots, hover boots, red tunic, blue tunic, and it's like.
Golden Gauntlets.
Golden Gauntlets is definitely the worst defender because you get it right at the end of the game to then get
I've got to agree with you on
with
that.
the fucking half health thing, which would have been better like 3 dungeons ago. Why do you only get that right at the end, like that magic? Like I think with some of the items, I like the idea that they exist in the game. I just think some of them are massively underutilized. Like you could literally just give me the bow, the hook shot, like boomerang, bombs, you know, and I'm pretty much kitted out to fight literally anything with the swords and stuff. And then you get these other items that iron boots I never used again.
You didn't explore.
No, I didn't explore, right? And I get that. Like,
so
if I'd gone
Zora's
explore,
Fountain, like there's a bit
stuff.
at the bottom,
Yeah.
and there's a heart piece down there. You need the iron boots to get it.
But like, other than that in the lake, like, where else are you going to use them? And like, I'm not saying like these items are particularly bad, but like even with the tunics, it's like, oh, now you can resist fire, now you can breathe underwater. Again, felt a bit underutilized because I can't think of many other places where I'm like, oh, I need to use the red tunic. The blue one I can understand because being able to breathe underwater is probably going to be.
They should have made you use the fire tunic in the fiery section of Ganon's Tower,
yeah.
and the same with the watery section.
Sense.
Yeah,
but they didn't make that. But
I mean, I will say the hover boots, even though I used them more than I use the iron boots. I think the hover boots are actually quite fun.
Higher hover boots are fun, and there are like
more places to use.
Things you didn't do in the game that
but
involve the hover
definitely
boots.
use them more. I use them a lot in Ganon's Tower as well.
There's a heart piece, like there's some heart pieces with the hover boots that you didn't do. So,
and then the last couple of things is a couple of the boss fights. Let's talk about the Water Temple boss, the actual final boss.
that isn't good.
It's really poorly made, and you cannot see the tentacles.
Yeah.
I struggled on that boss because it doesn't really explain what you got to do.
That's the worst boss in the
And
game.
it's just like, why is this so fiddly? Like, because you have to obviously like fire the hook shot into it to pull it onto land. But then, the more you hit it, the more like these tentacles pop up. But they're so hard to see. I don't know why they made them. I mean, I understand making them a bit hard to see because you don't want to like move out of the way. But they're so hard to see. I really struggled to not get hit by them. Like a lot of the time, they would just about miss me. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was there.
That is very true.
And the other boss fight that I think was just too easy, a bit boring, was Ganondorf fight at the top of the tower because, alright, yes, I knew what I was doing. It's just like play bat and ball. He does have another attack, but I only saw it once.
Yeah.
But it's essentially just like smack a ball back and then hope that he misses and then go and whack him. That's why I think the actual Ganon fight after the towers collapse.
It builds you up to Ganon, which the Ganon fights are a lot better.
Yeah, and I don't understand because like Ganondorf's meant to be this all-powerful guy. Why am I just? He's just launching a ball at me. Like I think maybe it's just a limitation of the time, to be honest, having only a few attacks. But it does feel a bit weird because it's not that hard.
But yeah, so if you aren't like on it with like batting it back, you will get
take some damage and stuff.
over.
But it's just
and
a shame.
You can go down to the bottom to
get
go
the stuff.
Yeah.
Like
because you went in it with. Oh yeah.
I had full health when I went into that boss.
Yeah, but did you have any fairies? I can't remember.
No.
Yeah.
Oh no! I didn't need them. I had I had save states.
Yeah, you used fucking save states.
I had save states. I mean that's pretty much my things that I don't like about the game. Some of those things far more than others, but you know, I thought there's more bosses I didn't like, but those two are the main ones. I actually prefer more of the temples and dislike. There's only 3 that I didn't really enjoy. So. You know, maybe I'm being a bit hard on the game in some places, but I definitely think, you know, there's a nice mix of positive and negative in there.
Yeah. You've actually said more positives than I thought you would.
Yeah, see, I told you. Same with
Dave, how much don't you like about this game?
It's not a huge amount, really.
If you don't mention the camera, I'm going to be very disappointed.
I was thinking about this. I mean, the camera's annoying, but, like, it's a game.
It's a 3D game, you know?
It's 20 odd years old.
I can't really get annoyed at that. It's like, yeah, like, a lot of like, the bosses and temples that you're bringing up, something I also find annoying. But, like, the majority of it's good, really. I can't really think of anything that, like, really sticks out at me as being, like, game breaker. Or, like,
so targeting.
Yeah. It didn't bother me. Yeah, I think everything's pretty solid. I was thinking about this. I don't think there's anything else, really.
No? Mr. Mark?
Not particularly.
I'm assuming you love this game so much, there's nothing
Yeah,
dislike.
this is my
apart from the things I've mentioned.
favourite game ever, pretty much. There are things that are a bit annoying that are only like technical limitations, so
We'll come back to you in a second.
so it is a bit annoying changing in and out of the iron boots, but they couldn't have really worked
Which
around
is the
it.
best thing about the 3DS version. They
Yeah,
put it on the
so
bottom
you can
screen,
press
you
the
just tap
button.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the best change in that game.
But they couldn't.
Well, that's the point, but I should say I played this on 3DS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's the version I
couldn't,
replayed.
they couldn't really work around that for the N64 version, so that's not really
Unless,
rational.
I think the only thing they could have done was to up your movement speed, but I know the boots are meant to be heavy, so I get that. They could have maybe made you move quicker underwater with the boots, perhaps, but I mean, that's...
There are parts of this game that I like less than other parts, but they're not dislikes.
No.
They're just not as good as the
There's
rest
some
of it.
children I dislike, but I don't hate them.
Yeah.
So-
Like, they're all good.
So Jabu Jabu's Belly is like the least good dungeon. right?
But
Like,
it's
I
also
think,
yeah.
visually really horrible.
I think
to
we
look
can
at.
all
It
agree
just
that.
hurts my eyes.
Yeah.
But I
Especially when I
like,
kept playing with the 3D.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh god, this hurts.
but I like the boss. I kind of
Yeah.
like the concept. And it's
boss
weird.
is good.
The
Like,
concept's
I like
great.
the princess. And
And-
I kind of like the idea.
And you get the boomerang, which is really handy.
Mm.
So there's
I like
still
getting all
enough
the
of it for me
tentacles,
not
the
to
boomerang and stuff.
dislike it.
Like the lightning. The worst thing for me about the belly is that when you first get there, until you get the boomerang, the amount of times it's kept getting electrocuted by things.
Yeah.
By things like going into me, or like I'd like turn the corner, or like there'd be something just electrocuting me straight away. That was annoying. Like after you get the boomerang, I think a dungeon's alright, to be honest.
Yeah.
I just hate constantly getting electrocuted. Like, I can't do anything.
I could do
Unless I got
that.
like a wooden stick. If you break all your wooden sticks, you can't do anything to the lightning
Yeah, yeah.
enemies because they just kill you with the sword.
Yeah, there's not really much I dislike about this
No?
game. For me, like, it all flows pretty nicely.
Yeah.
There's probably things that I like that I haven't mentioned, and I'd like prefer to get that in than say anything about dislike.
Well, before you get there, what was the one thing you just remembered that you said you didn't like about this game?
Fucking owl.
Oh my god, the owl, yeah!
Xbox, where it flips it over.
Switches it
So
around,
you
yeah.
constantly keep hearing him say the same things over and over again.
That is annoying, but I love
That
it
was
because
the
it makes me
thing that
laugh.
annoyed me.
No, the owl seems to turn up in literally every Zelda game.
Not so much the owl the way you're talking about, it's the fact they switched it
over,
over.
and that
Yeah.
one when you
The
exit
amount of
Hyrule.
times for just not paying attention.
Have you understood
just
everything
pressing
I
A,
said?
yeah.
No.
No!
I have to listen to this fucking again.
The thing is,
Like,
eventually he fucks off, and then you see him like one last time. But he is. It's like, dude, I don't need you to repeat what I already know.
it's like the same thing with Navi, which constantly keeps saying pointless
Hey!
stuff.
Listen.
It doesn't really bother me, I guess, because I'm just so used to that being a part of the game.
Yeah.
It's off the top.
I'm trying to think if there was any like difficulty spikes that would really be unfair, but I don't think there are really. I think
Running out of ammo.
like I was going to say about like not disliking something but liking it less than other parts. It's like like you were saying about the water temple boss. It was a bit naff. Like it's it's an amoeba that controls water. But I have strange nostalgia for it. It's really weird. I have nostalgia for all of this game, so it's like I can't really like say I have nostalgia. Yeah, it's not the best boss, but I don't mind it too much. But it is a bit weird that you can't really see the tentacles and stuff.
It's just I don't understand the choice of making them really hard to see, and also making the fact that it's in the water for so long before it comes. It wastes your time. That's why I don't like that boss.
Block that.
It is very stop-starty.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the flow of that boss fight. It can be really bad.
Yeah.
I tend
It depends how
to
lucky you are.
block that out mentally and replace it with Darkling because I fucking love the Darkling
Oh,
fight.
Darkling
I forgot
fight's
to
so
mention
good.
that in my likes, but because when you approach the tree on an island in like just a massive
Like
like
water thing.
and you're like, what the hell's going on? You walk towards a door that's locked on the other side and has no wall. It's just a door on an island, and you go back towards the tree, and then you see a little dark Link sat against the tree, and you go towards it, and he gets up and you start fighting, and he mirrors all of your moves, and it's like, wow, this is the coolest thing ever. And he's like basically undefeatable unless you know the certain things you need to do.
Din's
basically
fire.
using Din's fire and over again with loads of potions.
Not the
yeah,
first
that's
time-
literally one of the best. I can't believe I didn't bring that up in my likes because it's one of the coolest things in the game. I love that fight. I think it's
It's
awesome.
also not the first time he appeared. Do you know what the first game he appeared in?
Zelda 2.
Yeah. The very final fight in that. Which is cool because it's also really fucking hard in that game.
So yeah, I don't. Anything I would think about saying I dislike is just things that I like less than
Nitpicking
everything
it,
else.
yeah.
Yeah, I
You
don't.
mean you're telling me you don't? You like the Z targeting system?
I love the type thing. It's like my favourite. It's my most beloved game. Like,
Yeah.
I say it's my favourite game of all time because if someone asked me, I probably would say it was.
Yeah.
Even if I would, there are probably games that I would replay and possibly like enjoy more because I haven't played them as much as this game.
Breath
So
of the Wild.
yeah, because that game is still fresher.
Yeah.
And you've got some more freedom.
Yeah.
But this is like my most beloved game, and I can't really like criticize it.
Any other things you want to bring up before we move on to if we think it holds up?
Oh, like you said about all the characters. and I didn't really talk about that in my likes, and I wanted to just say that you are totally right. Like the range of characters is great. All the characters you meet are awesome. Like every area has a memorable character, or more than one memorable
Darunia, when he
character.
does his little dance, he's really
Darunia,
happy,
like,
isn't he?
Sari is really cool, and then like Malon and Talon in the ranch, and
The
Zelda
Cuckoos.
and Sheik and Impa and Ruto, even though she's annoying.
The one Gerudo lady
Yeah, Saburu's like
who
she's
basically
cool,
wants to
and, like,
have sex with you. She says it straight out.
the bosses are memorable, like Twin Rover and like
Oh, yeah.
all of that.
They're a good boss fight as well.
Ganondorf's obviously demonic and kind of scary. And yeah, I just love the ending where everyone comes together and they're all dancing and like absolutely ecstatically happy in Lon Lon Ranch. They're all in one area. All the characters come together.
See them together.
I love the ending. It's really awesome. You see the forest looking lush, like nothing dead in there, and like nothing, because it's all, when you go back to the forest as an adult, it's all horrible.
Yeah.
But when you complete the game, it's all lush again. Like the end credits have Death Mountain looking like nice.
Revitalised, yeah.
It has Lake Hylia looking good. Has all the areas looking nice and good.
Yeah, like the whole world's better now.
The whole world has been revived.
Yeah.
And I like that. The ending is really nice.
It's a good ending. Nice way to finish it off, to see everything back to the way it was before Ganon fucked it up. So. Right, so I think that brings us to the final section of do we think this game holds up or not. I have a lot to say on this, so I might go last. So I might chuck it to Mr. Fruity unless you...
I mean, for me, yeah, it holds up.
Yeah.
But like, I've never really stopped playing this.
Yeah.
Since, I played it on the N64, played it on the GameCube, I played it on the 3DS like a year or so ago before playing this again for this. So I'm kind of been playing it every like 4 or 5 years anyway.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it does. So it'd be kind of weird thing, does it hold up? Because it hasn't really been, I've not really had enough time to look back onto it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So yeah, for me, definitely, it's a recommendation. I think it's not too bad for new players to be like, well, like people used to play new video games to go back to this. I reckon you can probably still enjoy it. It's not as bad as some early 3D games.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's you've got a safe start point here, and you can work your way through all the other Zelda games and
Until
3D. Yeah. So yeah, I'd say if you haven't played it yet, play it. But I feel like most people we know have already played it. But I'm sure there's someone who hasn't.
That's pretty much me until recently. So
yeah.
Mr. Mark, I mean, I think I know what your answer's going to be.
Yeah. Like Dave said, I've not had a period of time where I've not played it for a long time, so I can't imagine a time where I'd played it and then like left it for like years and then played it again and been like because I played it over and over again as a kid, and then I played it less as I grew up, but still played it periodically enough to not see like a big gap where I'd been like, wow, this hasn't aged well or whatever. I know obviously graphically it doesn't look as good as like Breath of the Wild or any modern game or whatever, but I still think it looks good enough to replay. I mean, obviously if you get, I would probably recommend playing the 3DS version, because that version of the game is beautiful. It's like a really nice looking game, and playing it in 3D is really cool. So yeah, I definitely think it holds up. I think it's still a really fun adventure. I think it's still the epitome of Zelda. I think it epitomizes like 3D Zelda, or any Zelda, and has the pacing and everything you could want. All the music is great. Like they'll never really do such a broad like amount of awesome music as they did in this game, really. I know it's obvious that I'm going to say that because I'm nostalgia blind and I can't really view this without having my 10-year-old cap on. But
still fits.
Yeah. Like I played this when I was like 9 or 10, first time, and I will never not enjoy this game. I mean, maybe that isn't the case for everyone, but I can't.
Yeah.
Like I know people.
We'll find out.
I know people who've played this for the first time as like an adult. Like I'm gonna say that you don't agree.
I have a lot of things I want to say on this. So I want to start off by saying that, you know, up until like I said earlier, most of my experience from Zelda was the 2D ones. You know, I played Link to the Past, Link's Awakening, Oracle Seasons, Zelda 1, Zelda 2. Like, you know, most of the 2D ones. Breath of the Wild comes out, and that was probably the first 3D Zelda game that I got absolutely sucked into. I completed it. I put like 100 hours into it. Played all the DLC. Like, absolutely loved everything that game did. And the big thing for me that really got me into that was the fact that you have a much more streamlined dungeon in those games. Now, I know obviously the dungeons are a massive part of Zelda, but for me, a lot of the 3D games, the ones that I've played, so essentially just Wind Waker and now this, I don't know what it is about these games, but these games make me feel quite stupid with the puzzles. Like, I think this is something that Breath of the Wild does.
Because you are stupid.
I know. Something that Breath of the Wild does quite nicely is lets you have a few alternate ways of doing it, and even the 2D games, like, it never feels like the puzzles get that complicated.
I think like games used to be a bit more obscure. They used to have random things that you wouldn't expect. Like they don't do that in games as much anymore.
You have a set thing you can do.
Older games, you might have to do something, and you would have never guessed it.
Yeah, that's true.
So my feelings on this game are kind of mixed, because I don't think the game is like horrendous. I think the game is actually pretty good. Would I recommend this to someone's first Zelda? Absolutely not. I would be like, play Link to the Past, start with that game. I think that game's a bit easier, and I think that game's a bit more straightforward.
It's really weird, because I think Link to the Past is a harder game.
I think it's a better game. I know it's 2D versus 3D. The reason I say that is because I think the game is very, like, apart from, I can't remember how hard some of the dungeons are, but I feel like the curve on that game is fairly decent. Even Link Between Worlds, start with that game.
I mean, Link to the Past obviously is an amazing game. Like I'd say, like Link to the Past is the ultimate 2D, and Ocarina is the ultimate 3D. Even though I probably think saying that Link Between Worlds is probably even better than Link to the Past.
Yeah. I mean, Link Between Worlds is a
very good game.
I don't like to say that because Link to the Past is so classic and it's standardized like 2D Zelda games. But Link Between Worlds is like
it's very, very good,
phenomenal. Yeah.
But like in terms of 3D Zelda games, I don't even know which. I mean, I wouldn't recommend starting with Breath of the Wild because that game is bloody daunting. If you've never played a Zelda game, I'd probably say start with maybe like Wind Waker or Twilight Princess. Twilight Princess has a very long tutorial, which I don't think in some cases would be necessarily a bad thing. I've not played it myself, but I know that those two games I think would be the best place to start. But this game is very interesting to me as somebody who is much later in their fandom of the Zelda games. This was hard for me to play in some aspects. I got very frustrated with some of the puzzles. Some of the dungeons really annoyed me. I did enjoy a lot of what this game had to offer in terms of the different types of dungeons, the places you visited, and seeing all this stuff that had come from, you know, I'd seen in other Zelda games. I honestly think this is a game that would really benefit from another remake for consoles. Like, you could just get the 3DS version, up-res it, put it on Switch. But I think this game would benefit from having a straight-up remake, like, using either the same art style or, like, you know, but updated.
Yeah, maybe.
Or using...
I just think people would just be like, again, really?
Yeah, but I think the issues I have with this game, and I know that some of this got fixed on the 3DS, is just like, you know, you've got more buttons now. You hopefully can map a lot more of this stuff. Obviously, the 3DS, you have it all on the bottom screen, and they let you take on and off the iron boots. Having the map on the bottom screen. Like, in terms of that, like, I think if I played the 3DS version, I probably would have had a better time. But I think for me personally, I would love to see it remade with a better lock-on system. Just change up some of the way that make it easier to see that water boss. Like, I can go through the list of things I didn't like. If you changed every single one of those things, I think this game would be like up there in terms of the games that I've played. For me, this is like a solidly, like, this is a good game, this is a fun game. I'm probably never going to touch this again unless I play the 3DS version, honestly. Not because I hated it, it's just I prefer Breath of the Wild.
It doesn't excite you on that sense.
No, like Breath of the Wild to me is a much more like, because it's not because it's like more modern. I just like Breath of the Wild. Like, the first thing I did in that game was just go around and explore the world.
The sense of freedom,
just going and looking at the towers and trying to do that as challenges.
I can understand that. Like I obviously I'm not gonna say I'll never touch this game again.
No,
because it's like I love this game, but I can see your perspective as someone who didn't play this much back in the day. Like, if you've got Breath of the Wild and that game is enormous, and like you haven't seen probably a fair amount of the map.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone round it, but not seen everything.
The amount of freedom you get in that game, the fact that you can climb anything and glide off anything, and
that does help.
Go anywhere. Like, I do understand like how this game feels.
Yeah.
Like the linearity makes it less replayable, maybe.
There's nothing wrong with the game being linear.
I don't feel that way.
No.
I just mean, like, I can see how you might feel that way.
There's nothing wrong with the game being linear. I don't think that's bad at all, because there's still freedom there. I think the thing is, like, Breath of the Wild just spoke to me. I think the thing that I liked about that game so much and what dragged me in was because a lot of things in that world just make sense. It's like, oh, I can push a boulder down a thing and it will do this, and like this will happen, or like, oh, I need to do this specific thing, or maybe I can use a fire arrow, or maybe I can use a piece of wood, or maybe I can use a bomb. You know, it was because it's obviously at the time they can do much more stuff with it. And it just spoke to me because I preferred a streamlined dungeons. All the puzzle, like the shrines in that game, that are puzzle based. They're great because they were very small scale. If I couldn't figure it out, I could just come back later. Obviously, in a dungeon, when you have a lot of puzzles, you either have to look it up if you get stuck, or keep persevering. And like, there are some times when I don't, playing an older game especially, in this case, I wanted to see this game. I wanted to see. I didn't see all the side quests. I wanted to get through it so we could talk about it. And there were times when I was just like, there's a block pushing puzzle. I just gave you the controller. I was like, I can't do it. This is annoying the shit out of me. You just do it.
Forest Temple.
Yeah, and it was just stuff like that where I'm just like, there's just elements of that are just frustrating, and that's just the personal level. Like, I don't think the game. I think the game's definitely worth still playing, the N64 version. Definitely play with a N64 controller just for the C buttons, if nothing else. Because the controls in this game are fine. Like, the controls actually work pretty well.
They're great. Yeah, you played it with a Wii U controller, and like, that was, if I'd known that you would have had to do that because you couldn't find a cartridge, I would have made sure that I brought the cartridge.
It's fine
because like playing this on I know a lot of people don't like the N64 controller, but I grew up with it. I think it's great.
It works better,
and it definitely works with this game.
Yeah,
like.
And like, it probably does work well on the 3DS as well.
3DS.
Yeah.
I think I didn't really talk about the controls, but I think the controls in this game are really good. Like, I know you probably don't.
I think the controls are fine. It's the Z targeting, but that's not related to the what I was using. But honestly, like, my thoughts on this game are, I think it's a good game. It's a game that I probably won't replay either for a very long time, or it'd have to be the 3DS version just for those little tweaks and stuff. But also, it's an N64 game, and as a console, I did not have any nostalgia for. My favourite game on the N64 is Smash, because at the time, that and GoldenEye at the time were the games I played the most. When I eventually played this, when I eventually played Mario 64, when I played Mario Kart 64, I didn't enjoy any of them at the time. Playing through this again, Perfect Dark. That's a great game, but I didn't play it at the time. Playing through this again and having you guide me and talk me through things and like give me hints and stuff was a much more better experience for me. Because if we were going to do this and you said, "Oh, go and play the game and just play it," there were points when I was playing it where I just wanted to give up, where I was just like, "This is just annoying me now." And that wasn't very often. That was just my own things of dealing with certain mechanics or like certain dungeons. And there were times where I'm like, "Oh god, I've got to do this, I've got to do this." But that was very few and far between. Like, most of the time I was having fun with it. But like, for me personally, I would rather play a lot of the 2D Zeldas. I'd rather play like Breath of the Wild. I think Wind Waker, even though I haven't completed it, is probably an easier game to get grips with. I think it's a slightly better game.
Wind Waker is a good start off point.
Yeah, like, I don't think this game is bad by any means. I just think I'm because I didn't play this at the time. I have no nostalgia for this game. And now, having played newer Zelda games and other Zelda games that I think could do things better, my point on this game is like, this is a good game, play this game, but I'm probably not gonna play this again myself. I do think it holds up. I do think it holds up as an N64 game, but I think it's definitely got things there that are just done so much better now. That going back to playing this, you are going to have some frustrations, and that's going to vary. That's going to vary with different people. Whether it's me with the lock-on system, maybe it's the dungeon design for some people, and that's just me being honest, because I don't. I know both of you thought I was going to shit all over this game, and that isn't the case. Like, I did have genuine.
You did say a lot of positives. To be
yeah,
fair.
and that, like, there are lots of things in this game that I think are really cool. I just think that Nintendo have since iterated on those mechanics and made them either easier or better or just fluid. And I get it. It's an older game on a system where it's early 3D. Because I don't think this game particularly looks that good, especially in Jabu Jabu's Belly. Not everywhere. Some place, the ice cavern place that I didn't even know existed. I thought that was quite nice. The ice place and things like that.
The music in that is really good. I don't know if you remember it. But
It
has music that's a lot like because you said that you didn't like much of the dungeon music.
Yeah.
But the music in that is
it's quite
individual.
Yeah,
like they don't use
that.
Mean. They don't really use that again, and it definitely suits the area as well. It's cool.
And it's just like
I like some of the enemies in that area as well, where you get frozen by the frosty breath.
Yeah,
of those ice
they're
things.
annoying. Well, and
you get the blue flame as well.
Yeah, and you're like setting fire and stuff. There's a lot to love in this game. I'm like, as an honest opinion, as someone who has now played the game, who didn't play it back in the day, or I have very little memory of playing it. I can say that this is not the best Zelda game I've ever played. I prefer other ones, but I think they're in a very solid foundation. And I personally would love to see like a ground-up remake again for the Switch, maybe using like Breath of the Wild's like engine, or just an engine that suits this game, with a lot of the modern stuff implemented. And I know that's probably a lot of people like yourself who played it younger probably don't want to play that. Actually, like, oh, I don't want to ruin this perfect game. But I think me, as someone who likes more of the way that Breath of the Wild handles and stuff like that, I'd be down for that, and I think that would be awesome. So that's why I would recommend the 3DS version over the N64 version, I think. But I mean, that's my honest thoughts about this game. You know, I know it's very different to you. I know this is like your favourite game, but for me, it's just one of those things where I think it's just of that time period, and I've played it now. I'm glad I've played it. And I can move on, and I've started playing Oracle of Seasons instead to fill that void of Zelda.
Which you've played before.
I have played before, and I do like that game, even though I've never completed it. So, but I think that's gonna be it from us today, guys. That's a very long episode, but we've been working on this for a while. Mainly me trying to get through it.
It's worth making it long.
Yeah, and I think
she said.
I think we've pretty much covered everything. I mean, like, we'll probably remember stuff afterwards, but I think we've had a very in-depth discussion on why, like, a lot of, you know, this game. There's a reason why this game is so widely regarded as one of the best games. Same with Mario 64. Even if I don't like them personally, you know, they're kind of the grandfathers for a lot of things that are now set in stone and commonplace in video games. So that's going to be it from us today then. If obviously you like this video, hit the like. If you want to hear more of this stuff, hit subscribe. And if you want to disagree with me in the comment sections, tell me I'm wrong.
About his fucking Z targeting shit.
Obviously feel free to put a comment down below. But until next time, guys, it's going to be goodbye from me, and it's going to be goodbye from these two.
Goodbye.
Bye.